Yo, what's good, guys? Welcome back to another episode here at Sobriety University. This channel, we discuss addiction and recovery related topics. In this quick video, we're just going to discuss the grieving process of quitting an addiction. And one might be asking, what do you mean the grieving process of quitting an addiction? Like, why would one want to grieve and feel sad about losing something that caused so much pain and suffering? Well, I think one part that gets overlooked when quitting, and this might be one because the pain was so intense, life is so dysfunctional, X, Y, or Z, or one's just sick and tired of being sick and tired. One thing that gets overlooked is the fact that at one point, the substance, the behavior, the person, X, Y, or Z, did bring pleasure, did bring safety. And I found this personally with every addiction I've had, whether it be like weed, for example. I mean, I had some great times with weed, smoking with friends, having a blast. I say sugar, for example. I mean, it was definitely kept me comfort on some lonely nights. And all that being said, it was very important to honor that and kind of respect that and say goodbye to that part of self, that those memories, the lifestyle really. And in doing so, I found it easier and easier to let go of the substance simultaneously. And so before we dive into that, a quick question might be like, what do you mean by grieving? Like, what does that entail? I found it personally meant just one, feeling the sadness 100%, and then letting that come out through tears, obviously. Sometimes even just straight up screaming, just whether there's anger or pain, just like, why does this have to go? All of that. And again, the question might be like, why would one be going through that when they're in such pain? Well, I found that once some of the positive benefits of being without the substance come in, how do I say, nostalgia can kick in. So same with like, when someone you know dies, the only thing you remember are the good times. And that kind of happens with addiction as well. Like, I found that it's just like, now that the pain, there was some separation from the dysfunction and the pain, it was kind of like, okay, it wasn't all bad. It was just more, near the end, it was more unpleasant than pleasant. So therefore, we're going to let it go. In the meantime, though, it was important to say like, okay, goodbye, cry, feel that sadness, talk to someone about it, and then again, like conversely, it just kind of translated into being like more, I would say, like feeling more mature about it and being more willing to take that next step. Because kind of some of the fears that can come up when quitting are like, what's going to fulfill or what's going to replace this addiction I'm letting go of? How is that going to feel? Which are two very important things. And I guess the third one is going to be just, will this be enjoyable? Will I regret this? Will it be pleasure? So a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty is a very uncomfortable emotion I'd say it's more comfortable now. First starting out though, it's one of those emotions that I think is very seductive to want to avoid. And I know I tried to avoid uncertainty at all costs through any means necessary, which is ironic because that was some of the reasons I used addiction in the first place, to evade uncertainty. And then at the end of the day, it just exacerbated the uncertainty. And so once the grieving process happened, although I could see the positives and let that go, I also saw, again, in a more truthful, objective approach, how dysfunctional the relationship was. So a great analogy can be, if you've ever had a friend that is quitting or getting out of a relationship, and you might, for weeks, months, be able to be like, dude, like, maybe you don't tell them because you're smart enough not to give advice when unasked for. However, in your mind, you're like, okay, this relationship is ridiculous. Like, this person's being used, or they're using the other. Anyway, it's almost as like watching a movie where you can kind of see what's happening and kind of predict the ending of it. However, the person, maybe even you bring it up and they're just like in denial about it. Like, no, man, this relationship's great. Like, we're so in love. Like, like yeah. They beat me up once a week, but hey, like, there's also so many other, you kind of get the drift. And so then eventually they do decide to break up with the person. He's like, oh, finally, gosh, they finally came to their senses. And they go through maybe like a year, like in any romantic sitcom, like right there, or rom-com, they like cry for like a scene of like 5 minutes, and they're eating Ben and Jerry's and like calling their friends, and like they're walking through life, and the seasons pass in the span of like 5 minutes, and they're like, oh, I can't believe they're gone. And slowly in that 5 minute period, obviously in human life it's gonna be like a year, 6 months to a year, let's say. They get a little better. Like on the third, in minute 3, they're like looking up again. The sky's blue, and like they're going to the gym and working out again. And it's just like they're come up again. It's obviously very predictable, but that really is what happens in real human life and human relationships. And then to end this, they go out to coffee with like a friend, like in that, once that year has passed, and they're like fit again, and they're like super confident, and they're glowing and stuff, and they're like, you were right. That relationship was terrible. It's like they know in that moment, like, that the other person was right, and the other person's sitting there like, I know. And then they're like, I'm ready to get back out. Anyway, you know how the story goes. And in a sense, that's, again, what's kind of happening with his addiction and stuff. Once that grieving process takes place, no matter how long it is, sometimes it can be really short, like a month or two, even a week. Sometimes it can be really long, depending on how deep it was. For weed, I took about a year. For sugar, took about a year, probably and a half, to be honest. And stuff like caffeine, though, took like just like a month. Like, that wasn't very intense or anything. So it all depends and stuff. Alcohol really wasn't that intense personally either. Maybe just because I didn't like it that much. Anyway, though, at the end of that, I could kind of see like how that person was sitting at the coffee shop, like, oh yeah, this was kind of messed up, and it was a good choice to get out of it, even though it was really painful and it hurt at the time. And also sometimes too, is that the person will like visit their ex, or like run into them in the street, right? Like they'll be walking, and then they'll look up, and they'll be there, and they'll be like, oh, how are you? And they'll be like, and the guy will be like, yeah, I'm dating someone else. And then once they've actually come to peace with it, she'll be like, oh, I'm really happy for you. And like, it just kind of has that resolve where maybe in like 4 scenes ago, when they were like in month 2 of the breakup, they see him like at the gym or at the coffee shop, and then they can't even hold their tears back, and they run to the bathroom, they're just bawling, and then like that kind of thing. And so translating that into the substance abuse, like, what I found is that after the grieving process, I would maybe go see some friends who were drinking or smoking or whatever, and I really didn't want it. It was like the idea of using that substance again, aka seeing that old relationship and starting back that fling up, was kind of unappealing actually. And I was like, honestly, there's just like no part of me wants to have anything to do with this anymore. Although I'm not gonna say that out loud. I'm still gonna have fun with the people that I'm with, because like, I don't want to be a dick. And at the same time, when they offer, it's very easy to say no. So it's just something that I think kind of gets overlooked. And I know I've tried to do that before. I try to white knuckle it and just not feel anything and just get through with it. I think letting that emotional process really take fold is really going to be helpful in long-term healing and long-term sobriety as well, really being able to stay away from it. Because once, again, if those emotions are still there, the unresolved ones, they might kind of trickle back in and kind of maybe trick the user that, like, oh, maybe you haven't forgotten about us, might as well use again, that kind of thing, instead of them just not being there, and then the idea of using again is just not even present. So with that one, we'll end with that. And if you guys got any value with it, please feel free to like, subscribe, share. Definitely feel free to comment down below if you're going through the grieving process with an addiction of yours and how that's going for you. Again, I know it can be very difficult and challenging and all the above, so I empathize, and you can get through it, you will get through it, and you will be a very much stronger person at the end of it, which is a huge silver lining, because if there wasn't anything at the end of it, there'd be no point in doing it in the first place. So with that, guys, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.